the last couple of weeks, we've started this series where we want to highlight the different circular Bitcoin economies around the world. And it's been a lot of fun, even for us to get to hear new things that are going on. And we really want this to be something that, puts it out in the broader space, that people understand the important role that Bitcoin circular economies play, and that it's really the grassroots, bottom up, that is going to Bitcoinize the world. And so that is the goal of this series. And tonight we're super excited to specifically hear from the folks in Peru that work with Motive. We've got Rich and Valentin both in the group tonight. And so one thing that's really impressed me about the project there, how broad and how many communities they are working in. It's I think it's like 15 or 16 now, and I don't know how they keep up with it. For us, we kind of focused on a couple, but they're all over the country. And so Roman and I spent a week down there, and we were only able to see a fraction of them. I know Isabel and Julian were able to do some filming there, so that's why we're going to have them also speak and kind of highlight some of the things that they saw that was happening there. But I don't know, Rich, do you want to start us off and then hand it off to Valentin?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start off with the one that runs his mouth, and then we'll get to the one that does all the good work. Yeah, thanks so much for having this up there. I think the experience of not only just our experience and what we've done with Motive and seen with Motive and whatnot, but also learning more about the other point economies and the kind of the environments that they're established in and that they grow in has been really interesting. Ours was a necessity to create a foundation and an infrastructure, a financial infrastructure, to be able to effect the humanitarian aid that we wanted to bring. We couldn't point to one little thing that we could tackle. Our problem was really it's kind of a single problem, but it needed a holistic answer, or we would just be kind of sticking fingers in holes on the dam. And the problem that we identified was that the problem is dependency. And when you're dependent, we all have dependencies. As much as some of us like to believe we're fully independent, and we have dependencies on infrastructure around us and governmental systems that, as much as we love to talk against the government, there's strength in having these institutions that you can fall back on. Having the fire department come and put out a fire at your house is a really good thing. But for the people that we serve, their dependencies are so great that they can't survive without outside aid. Like some of them, weekly, maybe more frequently than weekly, definitely monthly. And so it's great if a church can fill a little bit of that need, or a ministry can fill a little bit of that need, or an NGO can fill a little bit of that need, or a governmental program can fill a little bit of that need, but they can't fill it with the frequency that's really required, and they can't fill it steadily enough for it to be counted on. So people live in and are grown up in generationally in a survival mindset. And those of us in the first world just can't even relate to what kind of decision making factors you use when you grow up in a survival mentality. So, in order to reduce those dependencies, which the dependencies bring vulnerabilities, and I was mentioning the kind of places that you hopefully can lean on for help, but really those needs are filled in by cartels, by gangs, by just neighborhood bad people, by predators. Unfortunately, and it's pretty rampant where we operate, when they see a woman that has some vulnerability, they see opportunity, and not in a good way. And so for us, creating a Bitcoin circular economy was just a means to be able to scholarship these. Primarily it's single moms. We don't just limit it to women and children, but that's overwhelmingly what it is. um, to scholarship them in to vocational training, to entrepreneurial training, to really parental training, to a lot of life coaching, um, and so that they can learn how to, with the means they have around them, learn how to stand up on their own, earn their way, be able to afford to pay for their kids, and and avoid the kind of nightmarish ways that they have traditionally fallen into going about paying for things, um, which I really love that in in a clip that I saw on a film that's coming out, where some Peruvians were explaining. Because as a gringo, I don't even like to bring it up. It just sounds horrible for me sitting up here in Laguna Beach to talk about those kind of decisions, even though I do understand what it's like. But that's what we wanted to reverse. We wanted people to go like, no, I know how to make my own money. I do not have to allow that to happen to my child to be able to feed them. I don't have to allow that to happen to myself to be able to feed and clothe myself. And so that's where we're branching out more into some fun opportunities, tourism and travel on Bitcoin. And we have some exciting stuff like that coming up. But ours was born in creating an economy from the base up, from the ground up, so that people had fair access to the basic human right of being able to buy and sell goods without undue encumbrance. That's where we came in, and I'll, with that, I'll turn it over to Valley.
Yeah, and just real quick. So I know, having spent a little time in Peru, that the communities there faced a lot of similar things to what we've seen in El Salvador. A lack of access to the financial system. Um, if they are able to access it, they have to travel far in order to do that. Because of that, they're able to be exploited in different ways. No ability to really save in a currency that will hold its value longer term. And so, yeah, as we turn it over to Valley, just she can share some of the ways that Bitcoin specifically has helped in these things, and what are the things he's noticed as they've you know merged Bitcoin into some existing projects, and as they've built new projects, trying to um, you know mitigate some of this culture of dependency. So, Valley,
Hi
good to see your
guys.
brother.
Yeah, good to hear you guys. Thank you for invitation, Mike. I'm so exciting to hear um, about you guys, what you're doing there, and to add a little bit from what we do here in Peru. 2024, I can say it's a huge challenge, and thank God every year we try to use as much as possible the time, the opportunities, and the people to educate and equip them with this tremendous tool that is Bitcoin. Uh, Rich was resume what we do and where. And actually, I can talk a little bit where we do the work. So we are in Peru in three different regions, which is the coast, the highest mountains, and the jungle. These three regions has sometimes not just different people, like okay, all are Peruvians, but some of them are like from, they have their own language or different custom or very remote places. So the challenge for us was to open comprehensive centers, we call it, to work in a place in these communities, these different communities, to not see just
Can you
in
guys
one
hear?
place.
Can you guys hear him, or did he drop out?
I can hear Valley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll just.
yes, okay, okay. So everyone
Uh,
hear me well?
we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So During these 3 years, we was developing more than 15 circular economies through the comprehensive centers. What is a comprehensive center? It's a place where the families can come and educate themselves about Bitcoin, and we put programs under these comprehensive centers. Can be a school, can be a church, can be a house, doesn't matter about the building. What is important that the families, which means the kids, the youth, the adults, can have access of different things like education in many ways through Bitcoin. For most of them, Bitcoin is something for the rich people and just for a few. And for those who know about technology, who have access of smartphones, things like this. So we try to create the whole programs that can families can use Bitcoin for more than 5 or 6 days per week from very little things in them lives. And of course, it's not me. It's not just me. I'm Valentin. I'm just one person, two eyes, one hand, and two hands, 2 feet. I cannot be everywhere. So behind me or front of me, we are a team. We have a strong team of leaders that knows, first of all, that if we are in a community, we are there to serve and to use the whole tools we can have in our hands to educate and equip those people that can really get to that independency. Of course, running on circular economies, Bitcoin circular economies. That is our goal. And so during these 3 years, we tried to learn because we didn't have a manual how to work in the highest of the mountains where the people don't have internet, or they never had a bank account, or they never did a digital transaction. And it's interesting that the children, the teens, actually they get faster than the adults. So they was one of the ways, one of the our guides on these communities to introduce the technology. Then, of course, to win the trust of the people, it takes time. Now, in the jungle, people want everything. They want everything, Bitcoin, crypto, wherever, but they don't know why. So we learned that in every place we have to be patient and we have to be, of course, smart to understand the needs and the ways. It's like you have kids home, you have different ways to talk with your daughter and different ways to talk with your son, and then, of course, in different ages. So it was an interesting journey during these years, we can see lives transform, and we are so grateful for the donors and those people who help us. And really, we saw the hand of God during this time in these communities. People that they said, Valley, I never had a transaction before. They was happy because they was ready to use technology, but today they say we use technology to have incomings and to help others. This is legacy, to help others. We don't push them like, hey, you educate yourself, you equip, you have to help others. I don't push them to help others. It comes because if they see that we serve, they will want to serve others. So this is kind of a chain. This is the residual winning, ganancia residual. I don't know how to call it. This is the result of the work.
Well, I think let me add there that's something that's outside of Bitcoin and very remarkable about the way you've operated on the ground is you have role modeled leadership, you've role modeled love, and you've very carefully developed leaders that foster people to follow in that right direction. So that's to your credit and the way you've led people on the ground.
Yeah, that's thank God. That's it's amazing. And our population, like I said, it's it's different. Can be children, can be youth, can be the old people, and we try to make them through entrepreneurship program, vocational class, to have skills so they can produce things. Our challenge, first of all, is to implement the technology, to find the right method that they can accept first, understand, apply, but then to produce, to not just sit and just wait an NGO, to help them forever. So the challenge for us in 2024, more than to open new places or to think in, how many villages we are, is how can we get close to potentially Bitcoin tourists to those places where they produce, like sewing, souvenirs, things like this. That so the potentially tourists can come to Peru and surfing with Bitcoin, through travel with Bitcoin program, but also visiting in Cusco, Secret Valley, can be north of Peru, where yes, we have a little bit warm water. It's not hot water, but it's a little bit warm in north of Peru. We are very close to have a partnership with the community that is next of Chicama. Chicama is the beach where you can find the widest wave in the world, which is in middle of Peru, near of the big city of Trujillo. So from Lima, you fly to Trujillo. It's 1 hour, and then you went to the beach. What Huanchaco is where they think that the first surfing board came from there. It's a very interesting story. 3,000 years ago, Totora, it's the name of the first surfing board. And we participated in one national surfing um, championship. And in June, hopefully, we'll be part of the World Cup surfing in Peru. So the whole area, we want to educate and try to make it circular with Bitcoin. So it's a huge challenge for us. I'm so exciting that this 2024, literally, I think finally we can say we want to connect these villages, or as most villages possible. Maybe there are few that are very remote and the tourists will not be there, but we try to connect the potentially Bitcoin tourists to those communities to come to buy, but also maybe experiment, maybe stay, volunteers, wherever. Uh, they are open to be part of what we do here in Peru.
So I know one of the challenges you guys have faced is, how do once you get these things started, how do you get additional Bitcoin to come in to make these circular economies sustainable? Because a lot of them are operating in very poor communities, and so there needs to be an outside source of Bitcoin that continues to feed these projects. So that's why it's so exciting to look at different ways you can incorporate tourism, and that obviously played a huge role in the success in Elzante. Was having people from around the world come in and want to spend their Bitcoin, and that obviously encourages businesses to accept it and makes it sustainable. I would love for Isabella. I know you and Julian came down and you guys visited a number of these communities with Valley. I believe, Isabella, you were Peruvian, or you have Peruvian roots, and so would love to hear just the project from your point of view, what you saw, what stood out to you, and if there was any individual or story of somebody that was using Bitcoin that you met during that time that kind of stood out to you.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I'm from Peru. I was born there. I lived there, and then my family moved to America when I was around 10. So I got to experience what it's like in Peru. And honestly, I want to, you know, highlight the work that Motive and Vale is doing over in Peru, because people don't have a clue the amount of work that he puts in and the amazing things that he's doing. What blows my mind is that he's not even Peruvian. He's from Romania. That's the crazier part. So I honestly, that cracks me up every single time because he was truly sent from God to like help the Peruvians. And I think it was Rick that was saying how Bitcoin is a tool for freedom, and they're using Bitcoin as a tool, and that's not like the main source. They're teaching these people how to be normal human beings. And that's what impacted me the most and inspired me and touched my heart because we forget that these people exist. The people that I met, some of them didn't even know how to read. They didn't even know Spanish. They've been neglected by the government. Most of them don't even have bank accounts. And watching them, live like they're in the year in the 1800s, it's crazy how people still exist like that because we think that everybody knows how to read. We think everybody knows how to write. We think, oh, they can just Google it. They can't Google anything because they don't know how to read or write. So typing is non-existent. They communicate through the phones that Motive has helped them achieve. Because I say help them achieve because Motive teaches them how to fish. They don't just give them food like a normal charity. I went to a Catholic school and I remember helping out. And most of the times we would just donate things and we would never teach them anything. So when you give someone, they don't truly grasp or learn how to get it themselves. So they become dependent on these charities. But what Motive is doing is they're making them independent. They're making them make their own money. They're making them learn new skills, teaching them how to, integrate themselves into society because they've been sort of like secluded. So for me, watching them do honestly God's work over in Peru in the outskirts, 2 hours away from the city, 2 hours or 3 hours, going to places that don't have clean water, something that we take for granted. Living in the States, you can even drink water from, your faucet and nothing happens to you. These people can't do that. The government hasn't even the government can't even help them get clean water because of the gangs that are involved. And they want people to be, suppressed and neglected because then the gangs can take over and control them. So honestly, to anybody that can help, Motive, please do because it's one of the organizations that I've seen just honestly work their butt off to help people. And the people that are involved in Motive are the most genuine and the smartest and kindest people that I've ever met. So honestly, I want to thank them for letting me come to this trip because I remember this. There was like a before Isabela and an after Isabela because that trip touched me so much to see the amazing things that they're doing out there. I could sit here and talk about for hours for what they're doing. I'm gonna let Julian, share his piece because honestly, every single time the documentary that it's going to come out in May 15th will show the tip of the iceberg of what really is going there. Thank you guys for making it possible.
Real quick, Isabella, just curious as to what was, um, did you see people making Bitcoin transactions and were you surprised at how easy it was, or did it seem like it was still hard for them, or what was their level of competence as far as transacting in Bitcoin?
Well, it depended on the different cities that we were in. There's some cities like in Iquitos, they were using it super, very easy. I remember we even docked in this city that was called Pedazo de Cielo. It means like piece of sky. And it was honestly, the city was falling apart. The landing strip from the boat, because in Iquitos it's a landlocked, so you can only, move through boats, through lanchas. And we literally had to hop over from the boat to the landing dock because the landing dock was sinking. And I was like, there's no way that Bitcoin's going to be accepted here. And we ended up getting ice cream, getting, Gatorade, everything. Because the thing is, how Vale was saying, over in Iquitos, they take anything. But then I remember in Cusco, the women that didn't know how to speak Spanish or how to write, they were struggling a little bit how to use the Lightning wallets because I've been very vocal about this. The Lightning wallets assume that all the users know how to read. So when we were there, you had to sort of like guide them to say, oh, if you're going to send, this is what you need to click. And, you know, that was mostly what I noticed. Obviously, like they're using Bitcoin at its core as a peer-to-peer, electronic cash system. They don't care about, being sovereign. They don't care about the government. They don't care about that. And that's being true. I will never forget there's this part where we went to a papeleria, like an office depot, but in Cusco. And Vale is like, okay, go try to orange pill the lady here. So I go in and obviously I give them, my speech about being, the government is fucking you over, especially here in Peru, all this stuff. And then the girl, I looked at her and she was completely lost. She was like, I don't know what this girl's talking about taxes. What does she mean taxes? What does she mean the government? I don't even care. And Vale's like, you don't talk to them like that. They don't get it. You have to like make them understand in their normal language. So the way that Vale goes into explains it to them was he related Bitcoin to being in an abusive relationship. He compared that to fiat. You think this is normal, but in reality, that's not okay. Yes, you see it on a daily basis, using fiat or you be viewing the abuse in this case, you view that as normal when in reality it's not okay. So I did notice like you have to know how to speak to them in regards to that. I don't know if they'll understand the true meaning of Bitcoin here in 20 years, but it doesn't matter to them because they're using it to exchange for goods. Because you have to remember, these people don't have bank accounts. To get to the nearest bank in Guayapata, the nearest bank was 2 hours away and not there and back. It was 2 hours to get there and then 2 hours to get back. That's 4 hours of commute. So they're not going to do that. And because of COVID, they had the satellite systems implanted all over Peru. That's why they get cell service in these rural places now.
Awesome. Well, Julian, love to have you share what your experience was. I know was putting a little bit of pressure on you the last couple of years to get down there to Peru, and I am anxiously awaiting the output of the work you guys did there. But maybe you can share some of your experience and then also share about what you guys are producing.
Yeah. So I think Isabel posted the video is coming out in 2 weeks, and that's going to be free to view for everyone. It's a long one. I didn't think going in we were going to produce, I thought it'd be like a 20-minute video. But, Valley was nice enough to take us to every, major town that is just, they're all so incredibly different, and their use case for Bitcoin ranges and the people involved are so different. So it'll be the longest project I've ever done. It's about 40 minutes. But yeah, what was my biggest takeaway? I think the main thing for me is that, Mike, you kind of came at like a really interesting time because I think you messaged me shortly after I finished my video on Guatemala's circular economy, which is Bitcoin Lake in Panahat Shell. And that was a tricky project because I went in kind of going, just as almost like a tourist, bringing a camera down there and hoping to find the story. And I came back thinking I have pieces to something, but I don't have like the core theme of it. Like, I don't know what the core message is. We interviewed Eleazar there, who kind of is like the head of the community there. And it took me a while, but I realized like the core of these circular economies is you need to have someone on the ground, like a leader who essentially spearheads this and has this vision of seeing a better future for their local community and figuring out how Bitcoin plays a part in that. For Panahad Shell, it's a tourism thing, by and large. Like a lot of the businesses that he's focused on are, like restaurants and things that tourists would use, and it's a reason to go down there. He found creative ways to use excess cooking oil in mining operations. And every single one of these circular economies, whether it's, Guatemala or, Mossel Bay or El Zonte, like there's different reasons that the community kind of gets the utility of Bitcoin. Peru is a much different situation because it wasn't just one community. I think you guys started Valley in Hawaii and Waiapata, but the vision was never, we're going to put all our resources into getting this one community to be, some type of like tourist hotspot and just focus on it. As soon as we hit like a certain amount of, check boxes off for Bitcoin adoption and sovereignty, we're going to move on to the next town and we're going to do this. And they've done it now in 15 different places. And so for me, the question when I was making the documentary is like, that is a much bigger scale of a project than just focusing on one town. And you're also focusing on places that do not have basic utilities. Like, it's tough in El Zonte, but, you can drive, a little bit to a nearby, store and get a bottle of water. Some of these places, like, it's desolate. There's no electricity. There's nothing essential, like hospitals for hours and hours away. So, Bitcoin seems a little bit down the line of things in your hierarchy of needs. Yet, every person in every town that's kind of adopted it has found a way to integrate it into an essential service. The most interesting one I thought in terms of like something unique is that there's this town a little bit away from Tarapoto called Juanguera. And they had a problem with the municipal water. The government had spent something like $4 million to do a water purification plant. It didn't work. The water quality actually got worse. And so they took it into their own hands to do a kind of a private water facility. And there's 200 people, I believe, in the town, probably more now, that use Bitcoin through this service to pay for their water. So they've essentially created their own private water filtration service. And the only way that they can get this, subscription model out to people reliably is through a digital payment medium like Bitcoin. Like you could drive door to door and hope everyone had the soles, but then you have to make sure that, the local ATM and the bank has enough cash for everyone to do all this, and you have the change and all that. And it just doesn't work like Bitcoin works. But I'm rambling, but essentially the point is that, Valley has done something really, really clever, which is to kind of go into each of these towns, really analyze what the need is, figure out how Bitcoin is this puzzle piece that plays into it, and then find somebody in the town that has these leadership qualities to spearhead that project when he's not around, to make sure that they get the value of Bitcoin and that they can integrate Bitcoin into, some type of mechanism, whether it's through these educational centers, whether it's through a tourism play, whether it's through starting up a water facility. And it takes a great level of like insight and understanding and just being present in the moment to find out what those missing pieces are and how Bitcoin plays into it. But it also takes a great deal of like relationship building and analyzing people to find those community members in the towns you go into that will actually be the leaders for the long term. And so that's sort of how we focus the film. We interview 4 leaders in each of these towns, Franco, Moises, and they all bring something from their background into the work that they do. And that, to me, answers the question, like, how has this spread to thousands of people across, dozens of towns? And how could this model really, really expand outside, just the simple tourism plays? So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I would definitely encourage everybody to make sure that you're following Julian, that you support the work that he does. It's hard to oversell just how important it is to have these type of projects. Like, things come across in film in a ways that you can talk to somebody for hours and they won't explain, but they can see, through a talented filmmaker, just the way that Bitcoin can change people's lives. And that's really one of the easiest ways to orange pill people. So we need to make sure we're supporting the the people out there doing the hard work, because it's not well paid. Usually they have to try to raise all their funds, and it's very hand to mouth. So definitely encourage you guys to be supporting folks like Julian, and I'm sure he has the ability to do that on his Twitter handle, I'm guessing, right, Julian?
Yeah, and that was, the amazing part of all this is that, with your help and your ideas too, we managed to raise this whole thing through a crowd fund. That's the special thing about Bitcoin too, is it's an amazing capital raising tool, whether it's for entrepreneurship, whether it's for whether it's for nonprofits. And we're finishing up the video right now, but like I can't give specific figures, and I'm sure Motive doesn't want to give specific figures on like the Bitcoin donations, but just like colloquially, from what I've heard, the numbers, I've never seen so much impact done with such little capital that Motive is working with. And to imagine what they could do if they just had like a little bit more lubrication in that system is amazing. And obviously it's, money doesn't fix everything, but, really hoping when the documentary comes out that people will finally get to really have a clear picture of what's going on down there, and that, just sending even like $1 or $10 from, the couple, maybe 100,000 views the video gets will start to make a big difference down there.
Well, this is Rich. Let me add something to that. I just got back I went over to Poland for the Bitcoin Film Festival, and I moderated a panel with Joe Nakamoto and I can't remember the lady's name that did the Lecker feeling. And so I called Herman from Bitcoin Akasi ahead of time. And I was like, hey, I want to be moderating on this. What can I point out? What can I emphasize? What can I lean on? And his response was, he goes, man, you have no idea what that film coming out did for us here. Like it, people funded, when people fund a filmmaker like that, and a filmmaker covers a project like Bitcoin Akasi or Motive or whatever, he just got like a tidal wave of support that came in. So when we're talking about Motive in this, and we're talking about the great work going on in Peru, but don't think that funding the filmmaker doesn't even maybe multiply what we get as a nonprofit project. That when you're funding Julian and his projects like this, and other filmmakers like that have a passion project, mainstream isn't covering this. Not even the mainstream Bitcoin media a lot of times is covering this sort of stuff. So the more that you're able to support filmmakers like Julian and Isabella, to go out and find other stories like this one, it brings in multiples of support for us. It did for Bitcoin Akasi. I'm sure I've seen the rough cut. I'm sure it's going to do that for us. So please do make sure that these people stay in business and stay funded to go out and tackle more and more of these kind of projects.
Definitely. Thanks, Rich. I appreciate you really emphasizing that. I'm going to ask Roman to come up real quick and introduce Scott. Some of you know that we've started a Federation of Circular Bitcoin Economies, just to make sure that there is a spotlight on all these projects that are popping up around the world, and that we have a way of trying to funnel support and give them instruction when possible. But Roman, can you introduce Scott and talk about the work that he's doing?
Sure. No, it's super amazing, guys. And we were in Peru, and we were shocked too, like with the, seeing the work that you guys are doing there, and seeing it's two different places, two different countries, but we all are benefit from the same thing, right? From the same technology, from the same money. And that was beautiful to see that. And I think, part of that, finding different ways to support these Bitcoin circle economies, these projects, is that we're 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 building the federation, the Bitcoin circle economy federation. And Scott is one of the most passionate person, and he have a lot of knowledge on nonprofit organizations. And I, Scott, for me, you are one of the more passionate Bitcoiner that I ever met that want to do and want to support projects. So I'm gonna laud you because you're gonna do a better job explaining what is the idea that behind the Bitcoin Circle Economy Federation, and because it's about this, right? It's about supporting the new projects, being there, being a support. So if you can take from here.
Thank you, Roman. That's so kind of you. And it's completely mutual. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Thanks. First of all, let me just echo all the words that have been said right now. Just so incredibly inspiring to hear over and over again. I mean, every time I hear, and it's about the fourth or fifth time I've heard the detailed account of Rich and Vali, what you're doing in Peru and all of the ways that community are coming together. It just, I get goosebumps, as I'm sure others do. It's just so incredible. Thanks for the invitation to to speak for just a second, Roman and Mike. My name's Scott Wolf. I'm based in Toronto. My background, before I came to Bitcoin, and as I sort of went down the rabbit hole, is in global health and development. Worked for the last 20 years, in particular, with community health centers. About 80% in Canada and about 20% globally. And community health centers are really ways of bringing together services and support into one-stop locations so that you give people access to healthcare, but you also address people's day-to-day needs. If people are dealing with food insecurity, poverty, lack of housing, well, you those are health issues, right? And so you work at a local community level to address the needs of the community. And so as I discovered Bitcoin, as many have, was initially only interested in the curious, magic internet money, which I thought really was just about investment and finance and and as so many, as the saying goes, you come for the finance or the number go up and you stay for the revolution. And as I came to discover Bitcoin Beach and started to see what was happening in South Africa with Bitcoin Ekasi and others, and, took a closer look, et cetera, this is community development. Like, Bitcoin is secondary. Bitcoin is the tool. Bitcoin is the oil that makes the machine work. But this is community development. This is community empowerment. This is everything that I've committed myself to over the last 20 years. And magically, it seems that there are some special things that are happening here that, just constantly seemed a challenge to do in so many other locations. And as I got to know more about Bitcoin circular economies, I was sold. I just think this is the way to to build a better world from the ground up. And so have gradually gotten to know a variety of people working in different Bitcoin circular economies around the world, and given my past experience trying to bring together community health centers, which are sort of similar approaches to building healthier communities, but they look very different, one community to the next, as they should, because community needs are very different and community realities are very different. I started having the conversation with Roman and Mike and Herman in South Africa and some other folks about having a place to bring community Bitcoin circular economies together, to learn from each other, but also to achieve that network effect by working together. And so we've slowly pulled together this emerging federation with a very, very minimum of administration to start getting community leaders to start talking to each other, to develop some common messaging. We now have like a narrative definition of what a Bitcoin circular economy is, so that if someone is looking for that, they've got a place to go, sort of a tier structure. How do you distinguish a smaller emerging Bitcoin circular economy from ones that are a bit further along their path, et cetera, and help hopefully, over time to help all, new and imagined Bitcoin circular economies to benefit from working together. So we're really just at the outset of all of this. It's incredibly exciting, so much opportunity, and really, I'm just excited to be a part of it, and hopefully, sort of behind the scenes as a worker bee to try to connect people, try to draw attention to circular economies, and to support, the amazing work that all of you, Mike, Roman, Paco, Rich, Valley, and all of you on the ground who are doing the real work are doing, and we can build this beautiful, bright orange future together. So there we are. Thanks so much for giving me a chance to chat for a minute.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, we're excited about having somebody that can kind of help pull all these things together. As Roman and I are usually running around in circles, it's nice to have somebody that can kind of just tick the boxes off, and get this in a more organized manner. We have a little bit of time left. I think we started about 20 minutes late because of my technical deficiencies. But let's do some questions.
Yeah, let's open for question. We have the first one. We have here Top.
Okay, hey, Roman, I'm going to let you mediate the questions. And if people have questions for any of the people that have spoken today, whether it's Valley or Rich or Julian or Isabella or Scott, please feel free to shoot them a question.
Okay, Top, you want to make your question? Go ahead.
Oh, you called on me, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say, man, this is my first time ever discovering this space, and I've been on these spaces about Bitcoin for about 2 years. So I just wanted to say hey to everybody. I'm gonna make sure I start joining y'all spaces more often to understand what's going on with Bitcoin. But I do want to give a round of applause to Dennis Porter, who's basically making sure that we secure self-custody when it comes to Bitcoin miners and users in the states in America. That's very important to have people on the ground actually making moves for Bitcoiners out here, because we know that this is the true freedom that anybody who wants ownership deserves. So, yeah, I just got to figure out how. So I'm just add you guys some type of way, maybe through a list or something. But I made sure I followed the host. I got to catch you guys spaces more often. All right, I appreciate it.
Follow everyone here. And there is also Praya Bitcoin here, Fernando. Follow, if you've never been in Brazil or in Motive, the idea of these spaces is exactly this, that people hear and go and visit or support them in any ways you can.
Okay, I got you. I'm gonna follow everybody right now.
Oh, okay, thank you. Jess, you wanna go ahead with your question? Yes, Ale.
Sí, hola, gracias por todo trabajo. That's all. That's about as much as I got. But thank you so much. It's inspiring to hear all the stories of people on the ground, and I've been a single mom, and so to hear you guys are even just working to help single moms, I think that's so cool. Their kids are just in such a better place because you all are taking the time to do that. And I'm curious because I've been exploring El Salvador just through X, and I'm going to be traveling there in May and June. The internet said it's the worst time to travel because of the rain. So I said to my kids, that's the best time to go. We'll know we love it if we can handle it in the worst weather. And one of the things that I read somewhere was that if you want to make a big purchase in El Salvador, like a car or something, $10,000, $15,000, the culture is still to not want to accept Bitcoin, that they want to accept cash because there's, it's like a savings thing. And it made me wonder, is the next evolution, maybe it's already here, of small lending and teaching. And I know we're not supposed to lend our Bitcoin or all that, but people are figuring out, how to borrow against, Bitcoin. So we don't necessarily always have to spend it. And I'm just curious if that conversation or is involved in the circular economy yet, and how it might be working or talked about?
I think for most of the people that we're working with, it's still way too early for that. Longer term, there's definitely plans for different financial projects that can do micro lending and that sort of thing. There is a housing project that's building 150 homes in El Zonte, and they have all their loans. They make all their payments in Bitcoin, and it's a huge logistical savings for the NGO that is spearheading that. So there is some of that, and you can buy. I mean, we've bought a couple of vehicles for the project with Bitcoin, new from the dealership. There are some individuals that will sell. It's you definitely just have to ask around and push them a little bit.
Yeah. Yes,
Hey,
you can send us a DM. We will give you all the information you need. And yeah, welcome. Excited. Looking forward to have you here.
Yay, me too. Muchas gracias. Okay, all right. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you so
hey,
Thank
much.
you.
hey,
Ciao.
Roman, can I jump in on that question?
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, just to introduce myself, guys. I'm Adam Copperthwaite. I run Bitcoin Victoria Falls in Livingston, Zambia, and then I'm working on Bitcoin Montserrat in the Caribbean, and also starting a local Bitcoin meetup here in Delaware, where I live. I did have a question for Motive, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Bitcoin microloans, as I've now sent 3 loans to Zambia. Zambia is currently, from my personal Bitcoin stack. To support businesses, and most of those businesses are run by some of the students that have taken the Me Premier Bitcoin course, and I've seen it been really successful. They are currently going through a thing called load shedding in Zambia, which is basically energy curtailment. So the first micro loan I was able to offer was for a generator as they were going into this curtailment period, and that kind of has sprung up into additional micro loans. So there's zero interest loans. I'm not looking to get anything out of them. It's just basically my way of giving back and supporting that. But I think that's one people, for people who are sitting there and just holding their Bitcoin as a store of value concept, and have built up a stack. That's an opportunity to get. I lend them in Bitcoin terms, and I request them back in Bitcoin terms. So I do, am fully disclosing that to the person that I'm lending to, that there is a risk to them should price go up and things along those lines. And we talk about that, but just there is opportunities out there for you to help people get micro loans and support that, and just wanted to share that story from one of the circular economies that I'm running.
Thank you, Adam. Did you have a question for Motive?
I did. I'll jump in with that as well. So again, I am running my circular economies from the U.S. and managing them from afar. So it's just a little bit different of situation. And I've heard that you have a similar situation with the multitude of ones that you're running. I wanted to kind of ask, as somebody who might be managing projects from a distance or from a different location at times, maybe a one or two things that you would suggest to that person, and kind of how to make sure that things continue to be successful.
Yeah, we have several layers of that actually, because we really had Valley kind of sits on 2 teams. One team he's on was the leadership team that really designed it all and tested all. The other team he sits on is the one that rolls it out. And so for those of us that were up here in the U.S. And working with Valley down there, we got very different backgrounds as far as business knowledge goes, and nonprofit or missions work knowledge goes, and communications is a real big challenge. And then I'll tell you my what we've learned from that first layer, but then have Valley tell you maybe his side of that first layer. But then he's got people that are remote for him that he can visit more often, but still only periodically. And I can tell you the number one thing for all of us, and I probably take it for granted too often because I have Valley there, but it comes down to leadership and high quality people. And there's no way could have ever done any of this or would have ever done any of this or signed my name on the dotted line for a 501c3 and opened myself to that kind of exposure if I didn't know that my guy down there has already sacrificially dedicated his life to serving those in need. If he had come from a business background or whatnot, I don't know that I could have that. I knew he had already set his life aside to just serve other people in need. So that's the very first and number one thing. Secondly to that, I would look at PMIS software. Slack is a tool that I really liked. You could also implement Jira is another tool that would be good for managing those projects, staying on top of things, and not to micromanage, but to be able to coach and be able to have transparency into where the status is on different things. And those are a couple really inexpensive and or free tools that you can use. But first and foremost, selecting the right leader and knowing before you ever got involved with them, they had already dedicated themselves selflessly to something, because it just takes the fear of being shammed or being misinformed or worse. It takes that out of the picture, and you know you're on the same page from the very core of what you're doing.
Perfect. Vale, you want to comment something on that too?
Uh, well, yeah, I mean, there are so many. It's a very interesting question. How can anyone can do a remotely, leadership through a program like this? It's and of course, Rich was answering in great way. I can just add that make the leaders think on then to spend time before to bomb to throw the all the bombs of Bitcoin, to spend time to understand what's going on in the community, because it's sometimes you go there and hey, hi, do you need Bitcoin? Hey, you need Bitcoin, and people are like, hey, I'm starving, I don't have job, like what Bitcoin? They don't understand what Bitcoin is. If I'm going to the doctor and I tell him, hey, I need this medicine, he'll be like, why do you think you need that medicine? I don't know, because I saw the commercial, but that's not for you. So we have to make sure that if we send someone there, it's taking the time to listen before to speak. Listen and understand the people if you really want to have an impact community. Now, if you just want to teach the businesses, the local businesses, well, that is easy because I call that events. You make an event, a nice event, people are coming, they hear about technology, it's about businesses, and that's it. But if you want to do it circular, it's businesses, it's like regular people, normal people on the ground. You have teachers, you have the politics around, you have the whole these type of the people. So make sure that when you teach a leader how to work, don't tell him do copy paste. It's not copy paste from other community. In the jungle, people are very open. In the mountains, are very closed. Probably in Africa, the technology can be a challenge. So every town, it's a different story.
Thank
So
you
make
guys.
sure that you have that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Roman, just to echo the comments here, one of the challenges that I had at the very beginning was finding the right teacher. And when I found the right teacher, I knew it was the right person, and he has led the team through the first cohort and done an amazing job and can step up as a leader. So I think it is finding the right people in the local area that you're serving and making sure that their intention is to serve. Thank you guys. If you want to follow either of my projects, they're listed in my profile. Thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Adam.
What
We're
one thing as just an outside observer there, that what's going on in Peru is we saw that Valley did do just a great job picking local leaders and empowering them as we went out to the different sites. He wasn't micromanaging them. They kind of knew what they were supposed to be doing. And I was surprised at how fluidly it all flowed and how well it worked. So that's definitely is hugely important, is empowering your local people. I think we
Yeah.
want to wrap it up now. We're trying to keep
Well,
these to about an hour, but go ahead,
Mike,
Roman. I'll let you finish.
we have another two questions and from Nagesh and Tiff, and then we can close. So go ahead, Nagesh.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name's Nagesh. I'm really happy to be here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So I had a question that popped up when Julian was speaking. So maybe he or could answer it. And it's a pretty simple question. It's just what are some examples or an example of a problem that Bitcoin solved in some of these communities?
I think the main one that was pretty evident is some of these communities are so far off accessibility wise from a local town that cash simply wouldn't work. But as Isabel mentioned, because of COVID, all of these places are equipped with cellular. I don't know what the power situation is, but it seems everyone has fully charged phones wherever we went, seemingly. And you just don't have a medium of exchange otherwise if you don't have cash there. There's no way for these people to get on the banking system. And again, cash requires a physical footprint, and good luck doing that in boats, right? So yeah, it solves a medium of exchange program that's very immediate to a lot of these places.
Cool. Thank you.
I
Thank
can
you.
I can I can add a little bit just one example in Hawaii, 2 hours away from Cusco. When we get there, the 30 ladies, none of them had smartphone. From 20 ladies, zero smartphones, just three those phones with the buttons. And I said, okay, so what we have to do? They was look at me like, okay, we need phones to use Bitcoin. So the idea is okay. With Bitcoin, you make transaction, people sell, buy things, but through Bitcoin, they came closer to the technology. And today, when you go there, they will be like, hey, I have my WhatsApp. I can communicate. I want to have my webpage. I want to sell my souvenirs, the souvenirs that I do around the world. So it's more than just I went there and I saw they did transaction, and yeah, Bitcoin did something in their life. It's more than that. It's the kids now are teaching the adults about technology. They never thought that technology can change them. They can help them lives in many ways. And today we are thinking that okay, next step can be medical stuff. They can pay with Bitcoin. A doctor maybe in United States that want to give his time and make a consultation. Why not? Or things like this. So it's more than just one transaction. Oh, I saw the change. It's more than that. They try to reach more. What we can learn more, what we can do more, because they saw that they realized that they was very remote in this world. I'm sorry, I'm very basic in my English, but I try to be as most explicit possible.
You're good, Vale. So, Tiff, you want to make your question? Tiff?
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas noches, mi gente.
Buenas noches. What's your
Hey,
question?
I just had a quick question. I know you guys are trying to wrap up, but uh, has anyone here, or it wasn't really a question, it was more in regard to the circular economy, and I was curious if anyone here is running a Start9 server one. I know I just got one, and I wanted to share my experience with it. It's been so far fantastic. I don't work for Start9, so I'm not getting paid to talk about it, but I just wanted to encourage everybody who is interested in running a full Bitcoin Core node, a full Lightning node, a Bitcoin Pay server, a Nostr server. These tools all come on the Start9, and For someone who, like myself, may feel a little uncomfortable trying to create these things from scrap, you can really take advantage of the tools in the Start9 kit. And if you want to, I think help boost the circular economy by offering Bitcoin services to customers and onboarding people to Bitcoin. Start9 is a great way to go. They have a great Telegram group that I've been really enjoying whenever I have a question or I'm not sure how to figure something out. Their responses are pretty quick, and so I've really been enjoying doing that. So I encourage everybody else to check it out too.
Thank you. We have one last question. Mau, what's your question?
Hi. Let me introduce first myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Mauricio. My question is very simple, but I in this world of Bitcoin like 1 year, no, but I my question is, how could you introduce someone who is just starting to learn about Bitcoin? Because I tell some of my friends to understand Bitcoin, and these persons uh, don't know who when to start.
I'll just chime in really quick. I think you have to kind of understand what people's needs are when it comes to money, and where they're at in terms of having those needs met with the money they currently use. For us in North America, like the killer use case for Bitcoin is a store of value, protection from inflation. For other people, it's just a reliable medium of exchange if they don't have bank accounts. So again, it totally
If you're looking for some resources or references to understanding Bitcoin, there's a lot of good references out there. Um, what do you think your friend is looking for? Like books or like videos or what?
It's like videos, I think, because I'm here in Peru.
Hmm.
So I'm in my university. Yeah, and it's like some interested about these topics of Bitcoin. But yeah, I like to help them. No.
You say you are in Peru?
Yeah. I'm
So
here in Peru.
so if you one day understand Bitcoin, bring them to visit the project that Motif have. That's gonna be the best way to orange peeling and teaching them about Bitcoin.
Can you repeat it, please?
I say the best way, the best thing that you can do if you want that they understand Bitcoin, the potential of Bitcoin, why you don't coordinate with Motive and you can bring a group of your friends, family to visit the projects that Motive have there in Peru.
Oh yeah.
We're
That's interesting. Yeah.
we're
Bec-
we're across a lot of Peru. What part of Peru are you in?
Here in Lima.
Oh,
I don't know where is some events. I tried to found to, but recently, like 2 weeks ago, I visit the Twitter X account of Motive Peru. That it's so exciting and it's so interesting.
very
That
cool. Well, you can Orange Pill Peru is a good group on Telegram, and you can find a lot of the Bitcoin meetups from there. And then we're Valley's been busy orange pilling people down in like Miraflores, down in the surf areas around there. Quebrada Verde is a great place. It's not far from Lima. Some of the other places, I don't know that you want to go out to Comas or Caraballo or Ancon or those kind of places, but we're all over. And I encourage you to follow Valley on here and DM him and set up a time. If you have a group of people that really wants to see how it happens, like Roman says, you can come out and see it in the trenches, or you can come to some of the lighter stuff that we have going on now, like down at surf lessons, and talk to some of the business owners that have started accepting payment in Bitcoin down there, and learn directly from them or us. And
wow.
and
Uh-huh.
the Bitcoin powered by Motive little thing there, the Motive Peru. That's Valley. That's the one you can DM to get that, or follow me and DM me, and I'll get you connected. Either way.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I consider that. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. Thank you for your patience with the technical difficulties and us being a little bit late getting started, but it was a great session. We'll be posting this on the Live from Bitcoin Beach podcast and YouTube channel. So definitely, retweet it out. We want to make sure as many people as possible in the Bitcoin space understand the revolutions that's happening with circular Bitcoin economies, and that they can get behind and support things like Motive and the other great initiatives that are out there. So thank you guys, and join us next week.
Yeah, who will have next week, Paco? That Lorena is not here.
And support the filmmakers that highlight these kind of projects. Without them,
Yeah,
the fraction of the people would know about it. Twitter just
yeah,
doesn't do it on its own. You gotta get these people that are out there pouring their heart and their talent and their time and their money into these kind of things. So please support Isabella and Julian and all the filmmakers doing these wonderful services for groups like ours.
yes,
Definitely.
perfect.
Awesome.
So, see you guys. See you next Tuesday. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you
See you.
guys.
Thank you.
Guys,
Bye
thank
bye.
you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye. Take care.